get us started in the first news segment today.
Who is arming the Mexican drug cartels? This is by Michael Gaddy from LouRockwell.com, Friday, March 27th, 2009. The state Mexican authorities and their U.S. propaganda arm, known in most circles as mainstream media, have recently embarked on a huge disinformation campaign to demonize the American gun owner as a supplier of weapons to the Mexican drug cartels. Everyone in media, with the possible exception of Lou Dobbs, has joined in the campaign of lies. This week, Secretary of Homeland Defense Janet Napolitano announced a new plan to curb the alleged flow of weapons from the U.S. into Mexico. This program, which will cost the overwhelmed U.S. taxpayer another $700 million plus, includes machines that employ what is referred to as virtual strip search. This plan will supposedly slow down the number of guns traveling south from the U.S. to the drug cartels in Mexico. If this program has the same success rate as the government's efforts at stopping the flow of contraband north into the U.S., the Mexican drug cartels will have nuclear weapons by the end of April. While not stated as such, I'm sure this will eventually morph into the war on guns. Funny it not, every time our government declares war on something, it always increases exponentially.
Yes.
Whether it's poverty, drugs, terrorism, or guns, when the state declares war, rapid growth and expansion of that which is the object of that war is inevitable. Napolitano stated 70% of the guns in the hands of the drug cartels are coming from the U.S. The implication is obvious that she is referring to private gun owners. The mainstream media sucked up this propaganda like a largemouth bass taking a worm and regurgitates it without ever questioning the truthfulness behind the claim. Neither Mexican nor U.S. officials have ever produced 1 ounce of proof to back up these wild accusations. Wednesday on MSNBC, in an interview by Andrea Mitchell, Alan Greenspan's wife, New York Congressional Representative Nita Lowry stated 97% of the guns in the hands of Mexican drug cartels originated in the U.S. Representative Lowry, in her support for a new assault weapons ban, alleges these firearms are coming from the American gun owner. She is correct in her assertion many of the firearms being used by the cartels are coming from Americans, but from the American taxpayer, not the American gun owner. The fact is, the Mexican authorities have refused to release the serial numbers of weapons confiscated from drug cartel members. Releasing the serial numbers would implicate the corrupt governments of the U.S. and Mexico and their involvement in arming the drug cartels. Considering the above, it is my belief that the Mexican drug cartels are procuring large percentage of weapons from the world's largest supplier of these weapons, the United States government. Our corrupt government, cooperating with Mexico's equally corrupt government, has embarked on a campaign to deprive American citizens of the means to defend ourselves from tyranny, screening their own involvement in arming violent criminal drug cartels. We can weakly submit or stand for truth and liberty. The choice is ours.
Well, you know, Brian, the American people overwhelmingly, they don't want amnesty for the illegal aliens. They want them to go back to Mexico. They don't want them to get Social Security benefits that they haven't paid into. The government proposes that. They want a secure border, but our government, absolutely, you can't drag them kicking and screaming to secure our border, but they will use Mexico as a reason, as another end round to come at our Second Amendment right. And is that the way you see it?
Absolutely, and like I always say, if you look at this from the perspective of the elite, from the New World Order, you can connect the dots here, folks. I mean, it's fairly obvious, at least it is to me, and I'm sure it is to you, that, you know, to eliminate national sovereignty, to assimilate our cultures, it's definitely a major step towards a New World Order / North American Union.
Well, it is. It's by design to facilitate. Cause the conflict, and then they can give us their solution, which is going to be, one, to come against our Second Amendment right. Blame it on the American people. They're selling the drug cartels weapons, as absurd as that is.
And like we had discussed with Larry Pratt a few weeks ago, as if you know, an assault weapons ban is really going to stop the Mexican drug cartels. Like they're going to go to Gander Mountain and say, well, shucks, we can't get our weapons anymore, so I guess it's over, folks.
Yeah, you know, all of the beheading and crimes that's being committed along the southern border, all of that, there's laws against all of that, you know. It's not like law is going to prevent this from happening. It's unbelievable what is happening. But again, what the American people cry out for, the federal government just absolutely refuses to in any way represent the will of we the people. As we've stated here, the will of the people overwhelmingly was against these bailouts. We were indoctrinated to believe we were capitalists, but we're waking up to find out we're socialist and maybe fascist.
Well, just like before September 11th, it was illegal to, you know, hijack airplanes, to murder people, to blow up buildings. Yet we needed all this legislation to make sure it never happened again.
All these new laws just decimating our Constitution. It's unbelievable. We've got a clip that we want to play for you, and this is Mr. Wayne Paul. It's actually Ron Paul's brother, and this is at an In the Fed rally in Austin, Texas, which it has come out that, and Brian, you may want to comment on this, the End of the Fed rallies that took place November 22nd, 38 branches across the country, people that have woke up and realized that the Federal Reserve banking system is at the core, the heart of the problem with not only our economy, but also our corrupt government. But it has come out that the government was using CIA and checking out all the End of the Fed rallies and compiling a list to see who was involved in it. Now that's come out, as reported on Infowars.com. Let's play this for you before we come up on the next break.
1813, the Federal Reserve Act was passed, floor of the House, where 3 members of Congress were on the floor. At that time, they only needed a majority of votes to pass it. So in 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was passed. 20 years later, 1933, under Roosevelt, the United States was declared bankrupt. And in 1933, the Federal Reserve Private Bank says, okay, USA, what are you going to pledge as collateral on the debt you owe me? What happened by 1936? Does anybody know? We instituted Social Security system, and you and I and our children and our children's children were pledged as collateral on the debt of our government to the Federal Reserve. And that's where we're at today. It took 20 years to make this country bankrupt, and since then, our government has operated under emergency powers of our government. It is not the president that makes the decision in this country. It's the Secretary of Treasury who turns around and is put in there by the Federal Reserve to manage the bankruptcy. We've been in bankruptcy ever since. So to print $700 billion and to give it away, how do they get away with it? The manager of the bankruptcy is told by the Federal Reserve, this is the way to go. That's where.
All right, that was Mr. Wayne Paul at End of Fed rally in Austin, Texas. We're coming up on a break. We're here on WSIC 1400, WDSL 1520, and after the break we will continue with the news, and then at the top of the hour we will have Rebecca Carley, MD. We will be talking about flu shots, the Baxter Pharmaceutical debacle where they were putting live bird flu virus into the flu shots. Everyone will want to stay tuned for this. And we will be back here in 3 minutes on The Real News. We are back on The Real News. Our website is therealnewsradio.com. You can email us on air at therealnewsradio.com. And before we get started in this segment, I want to let everyone know we are planning an April 15th protest here in Statesville on tax day for the way we're taxed into poverty and these socialistic bailouts. There will be more on that. We're checking on the permits, but we want to let everyone know. Email us on air at therealnewsradio.com if you're interested in being involved. We would like to compile a list. So there's so much going on in economic news. Brian, go ahead and get us started.
Two-faced Geithner sure as